As we prepare for our final piece of the evening, I'd like to invite Kay Weaver to the stage. Kay is the eldest child of Ray and Vivian Weaver. And if I could brag on her for just a minute while she comes, she has been instrumental in organizing this evening's event. She's overseen the glass collection display, helped with the panels that you will see in the gallery, pulled together details for the musical portion, given direction for the video, and fielded numerous phone calls and emails from Bethel staff, all while living in California. She is a producer, director, and performer. As you can see, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Would you welcome and thank Kay Weaver?
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I've been asked to tell a story or two about my father, and there are so many stories I could tell, but I think I should go back to the beginning and tell you about my parents' first date. You know it's going to be a doozy, right? Ray Weaver and Vivian Bontrager met in the 1930s when Ray came to Beulah Church as the piano player for a traveling male quartet out of Fort Wayne Bible Institute, where he was a teacher. Vivian's older sister, Ella Mae Huffman, spied Ray, found out he was a bachelor, and made sure they got introduced. And two members of the traveling quartet, Kenneth Geiger and Larry Stout, encouraged Ray to ask Vivian out, and he did eventually, 4 months later, but he did. And he asked her to go with him to a performance of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra in Chicago. Well, Vivian was all gussied up in a Saturday evening dress, high heels, and a fur coat. It was a cold December night. He picked her up, and off they went in Ray's car. They arrived on time, they enjoyed the concert, but when they came out, it had begun to snow hard. Halfway home to Elkhart on snow-filled roads, Ray's car, putt, sputtered to a stop, out of gas. The road was deserted, the snow was drifting, and when Ray just sat there, Vivian said, "Well, aren't you going to go for help?" And he said he didn't want to leave his car in the middle of the road, and probably somebody would come along. But this was the 1930s. There were not a lot of cars on the road in the 1930s, especially at 2 o'clock in the morning in the middle of a blizzard. So Vivian, not having a lot of faith in Ray's plan, said, "Well, maybe you're going to sit here all night in this freezing car, but I'm not going to." She got out of the car, hiked about a mile in her high heels, threw snowdrifts up to her knees, and hitched a ride home to Elkhart on a milk wagon. And yet, she married him. A few years later, I think the memory of that first date had to dim, but she married him, and they made a good match. They had many things in common, among them a love of music and the arts. Vivian was the practical one. She got the cars out of the snowdrifts. She built the houses, the house I grew up in, the summer home at Winona Lake, the house they retired to. She managed the family, all 4 kids, and she paid the bills. Plus, learning from his attitude towards his paycheck, she earned the larger income so the bills could be paid. Ray was a pioneer here at Bethel College, teaching fine arts when some members of that first board that put this school together didn't think art should be taught at a Christian school. But he thought it should, and he taught, beginning in 1947. He was a pioneer, but Vivian was a pioneer in her own right. Vivian Bontrager was born in 1915. By the time the late 20s rolled around, she was singing the lead in operettas. Does anybody remember operettas? Gilbert and Sullivan? Anybody here? I see. The Pirates of Penzance. Yeah? You were? Well, She was singing the lead in those operettas, and she wanted to sing at Beulah Church with a piano accompaniment. But in those days, musical instruments were not allowed at Beulah Church, which brings me to the church discipline. Did anyone bring your copy of the church discipline this evening? Anybody? Well, I've got mine. If you would open this to the first page, you would see in pencil, in my grandmother's handwriting, presented to Ada McKinley by her gentleman friend, Brother J.C. Bontrager, Sunday evening, May 4th, 1902. In lieu of flowers, she got the church discipline. Now I want you to turn to page 47 if you have your copy. I'm going to read it so I get it right. I'm going to read it right out of the church discipline. This was published in 1897, Mennonite Brethren in Christ Churches, under the heading Musical Instruments and Choirs. Seeing as we do the evil effects of musical instruments and choirs in our sister churches, and being desirous of warding off all that may retard the cause of Christ, it is not allowed to introduce either musical instruments or choirs in our public worship. But, page 47 aside, Vivian thought that there should be a piano at Beulah Church and maybe even an organ. So she asked her father, J.C. Bontrager, to buy the instruments for the church, and he did. The pastor objected vehemently, stating that the piano was an ungodly instrument. Well, there goes Ray's life's work. But J.C. Bontrager did not see the piano as an instrument of the devil. And evidently, the church board agreed with J.C. because the piano and the organ were installed in Beulah Church. By the time I came along in 1947, my father was at the piano, my aunt, Ella Mae Huffman, was at the organ, my mother was conducting the Beulah Church Choir every Sunday for the 9 a.m. Showers of Blessings broadcast over WCMR. A few years ago, well, maybe more than just a few, my father was standing backstage here at Bethel waiting to go on to play a concert, and standing next to him was his friend, Elliot Nordgren. And he turned to Elliot and he said, "Nobody knows how much preparation goes into this. Nobody knows, in Ray's case, the hours and hours and hours he spent in practice." I would like to thank Bethel College tonight for producing this event, honoring my father, for putting in the hundreds, probably the thousands of hours that it took to produce this wonderful musical event on stage, to mount the glass collection that you will see next. I would like to thank the music department, the art department, the English department, the PR and marketing department, the Please Keep K Under Control department. I think, Dr. Chenoweth, that fell to you, didn't it? The Office of the Vice President for Institutional Advancement, all of you, staff, students, teachers, all who put in the hours, the entire Bontrager clan, the Weavers, who 20 or so of us are sitting out here, Ray's grandchildren, Ray's great-grandchildren, we thank you. Now joining the Bethel College Choir and the expanded Bethel Orchestra, it is my pleasure to introduce two children's choral organizations. The Children's Choir of Michiana is joined by members from the Homegrown Hearts of St. Joseph County, kids 4th grade through 12th grade. Please welcome the combined children's choir to the stage. I have composed music since I was 12. When I was 12, I wrote the fight song for Westside Junior High School. What you're about to hear tonight is the third anthem that I have written. This one entitled A Place Within Your Heart. I want to dedicate the premiere of this piece to my father, Raymond Weaver. After you hear the piece tonight, I would look forward to meeting all of you at the Weaver Gallery for the opening of the Ray Weaver Glass Collection. The gallery has new state-of-the-art lighting. It has new paint on the walls. It has new glass cases to view the glass. I think I agree with my grandfather, J.C. Bontrager. It is amazing what God can do with money. It is my privilege now to introduce a mezzo-soprano soloist who, like my father, is both an educator and a performer. She has taught at Indiana University at South Bend and St. Mary's College. She's the current assistant conductor of the Loretto Choir. Please welcome to the stage mezzo-soprano soloist Jaime Capa Rizzo. Jaime? And lastly, the new chair of the music department here at Bethel College, Jeshua Franklin. Jeshua. I would like to leave you this evening with one last thought. Thank the good Lord, Bethel College has progressed beyond page 47 of the church discipline. Thank you all.